question. We have to wait 5 minutes before our webinar will be broadcast on YouTube. So in the meantime, I will just introduce our experts who will be, let's say, providing inputs for the questions that we prepared. Like we will have some general questions and also questions for discussion, but let's go step by step. First of all, let's say, let me maybe introduce our two experts on board. Thank you, Elena, for letting me know. Okay, let's start with the introduction. So first of all, Olga Jmінько, who is coordinator of green finance for the EU Green Project at the Environment Agency of Austria. So thank you, Olga, for joining us. She's an expert on green and sustainable finance as well. So Florիan Ендрюs, who also agreed to join us and provide some inputs from the field, from the experience that he has. He is an expert on sustainable development and circular economy, and currently working in Ukraine across various projects, including solar energy, humanitarian aid, and investment preparation. And me, Olександр Сущенко, I'm representing here ASDE and also Research Center in Germany, where I'm working on sustainable finance under the EU-funded projects. And yeah, thank you all for joining us. I think the only thing I will ask maybe, Olena, should we wait 2 or 3 minutes till the broadcast will be started, or should we start already with the discussion? Okay, then we should wait a couple of minutes. I'm just going to repeat to everybody and ask you to share maybe your location, where you're coming from, city, country, and maybe your institution, which are you representing, so that this will help us also to be on the same page, and this will facilitate our discussion throughout the next 30-40 minutes that we have left. So I have the green light from Elena, so which means we could start with our main part. So just maybe to let you know how we will go to this event. First of all, we will have let's say the main key part with the general questions, where I will ask our speakers, Olga and Florian, on 3 key questions. After receiving the inputs, we could switch to the discussion. And for the kickoff, I will also, let's say, offer some options, some questions that we could use for this purpose. But let me start with the main part, and this main part will set the floor for all of us, and to be on the same page and to proceed with our topic. And our topic, as you know, for today is sustainable development and financing, key principles and tools. And yeah, let's start. So my first question will be about how can sustainable development be integrated into the financial strategies of businesses and organizations. And I will rely on your experience, Florian and Olga, and maybe I will give the floor to Olga first, and then we will continue with Florian. Yeah, Olga, over to you.
Thank you, Alexander, for introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar. So how the sustainable development can be integrated in the financial strategies. First, we need to think what the financial strategies are about. And this is firstly, the most important role of financial strategies is to create profits for a business over the long run and to maximize return on investment for stakeholders. And in this respect, there are different studies which show already that the companies which have sustainable development strategies, they perform better on the stock market. They show more stability, and in the long run, they show also growth and stable growth. So therefore, the financial strategy, stable financial strategy, it should rely on sustainable development. Another point relevant to this is the regulations, and this is also what is relevant for Ukraine, because with the with the goal to access to European Union, Ukraine shall align with the legislation of European Union and the EU Green Deal. So, which means also that the economy should align with the legislation of the European Union and sustainable considerations in the legislation. What it has to do with the financial strategy, the implementation of the EU Green Deal, and bringing economies to more sustainable and greening the economies, it requires substantial investment. And it also considers climate risks and how to deal with the climate risk, how to mitigate with the climate risks. And if we talk about the approach for sustainable development integration in the financial strategies, then I want to mention the sector consideration, because it makes sense to look for the policies and papers and research and studies and initiatives relevant to a specific sector, especially for CO2 intensive sectors. A lot of information is available. Also makes sense to look at the examples that are internationally available, international initiatives. For example, there is an initiative for sustainable fashion, there are plastic commitment, there is a commitment or initiative on green steel. Makes sense also to look for the best case examples in the relevant sectors, and also consider transition plans for industries. And for example, for transition plans, there is SBTI, this is the provider of guidelines for transition plans, and they also developed the methodologies how the climate can develop, and for specific sectors, how alignment with Paris Agreement can look like. Yeah, sustainable development strategy it's about what needs to be done, and finance strategy is about how it needs to be done and which investments shall be prioritized. And although it looks like the regulations and everything else is very complex or hard to implement, at the same time, this shall be taken as an opportunity, because it is an opportunity for innovations, it is an opportunity for using the new financial products and instruments, and also opening new sectors and new products.
Yes, huge thanks. Just maybe like to sum up your point is like sustainable development is the key to guarantee like positive financial results on the long term. It's not like something fancy. It's about like the question of surviving or let's say staying alive. So thank you, Olga, for your input. And then Florian, maybe over to you from your experience, from your perspective. Yeah, how we can incorporate sustainable development into the financial activities.
Hi, hello. My name is Florian, based in Hamburg. Thank you, Olga. I would like to continue a little bit with the question. So, what to do with the money you want to spend, or other way around? The question is where to spend the money. And basically, when in green financing, there are two directions what you can do, or the opportunities where you can, start working on. And one premise we have to make is we're not talking about startups. We're talking about incumbent companies. What is the difference? A startup can look, for a fairly new strategy on its way, and that's great. Incumbents, they're doing for 10, 20, whatever years, they're doing the business. Now they have to change because of regulation requirements and so on and so on. And this is really hard and difficult for a company. So the question now is, what can a company do, and where is green financing placed at the best place? And basically, you have in the end four field matrix where you can set your money on. So the one is the company is developing a business case for sustainability. So just assume that you're a car building company. So far they are fueled by gasoline. Now you're going to build electric vehicles, or you're with batteries or whatever, you're working on that. So this would be a business case for sustainability. Why? Because you're trying to earn money with some kind of offering which is nearly the same as you had before, or it is more or less the same as you had before, but now with a lower impact on environment or social aspects. So this is the business case for sustainability. And this means that a strategy of a company has to turn very often by 180 degrees. This is very hard. This needs a lot of guts and strength and endurance and everything. But this is the best case. Mostly, or very often, we see on the side of the businesses that they are still keeping alive their strategic field where they want to play, but they're working with and accepting the requirements of the new situation. And this is the cross-cutting expertise. What do I mean by that? You have a company where you're still working, you're offering a product for your companies, but the way you're producing it is different. It's not a new market you're going to, it's the same market, but in the end, your product is a green product and not a harming product. So you have to check what kind of requirements are on your business or on your industry, and of course, what kind of cross-cutting expertises do you need to understand this in every department you're working with. So there's the department of sourcing, there's there are the processes where you build something or where you do something. What kind of changes can you apply there that the output or the outcome of the process is a green one and not a, let's say, a common one. So these are the two different things. And that's the reason why we are talking, for example, about sustainability in human relations. An HR department per se has a strong focus on social aspects. But of course, you can deal in a sustainable way with social aspects, or in a non-sustainable way with social aspects. Sustainable communication, for example, is an aspect which is very important for companies who are still working on their common field, but with a new approach. And the other thing is that you have the two directions of sustainability or of threats coming up. The one is adaptation and the other one is mitigation. So either you're trying to lower the impact of climate change, for example, or you're trying to adapt to climate change. Just think about building a new a ground for a new factory, for a new production line, whatever, at the riverside. So years ago, you didn't have to take any thoughts about floodings and stuff like that. Now, as we are facing the threats of the climate change, of course you have to adapt this new site for floodings, because there is the risk much higher than it used to be. So the point is to work with green financing needs a strong focus point, and with this four aspects, you can find your focus points and your strategy, how you want to change your company.
Yes, thank you, Florian. Maybe like to sum up your point, so like solving environmental and social problems became a business opportunity, or should become business opportunity, and then we could solve this issue and generate like additional financial flow. But becoming more sustainable means mobilizing or finding some sources, financial sources for this purpose. And my next question relates to your experience or your point of view. What kind of sustainable instruments could be used for the purpose of shifting or moving to the sustainable future? So I will again start with you, Olga, and then I will move to Florian. So Olga, over to you.
Thank you. So when we talk about financing, we can differentiate between the public funds, public finance and private finance, the banking market and capital market. And so in the public finance, that would be for example, the national budget, or there could be also the funds provided under EU programs. And there are EU programs which are focused on supporting environmental purposes or environmental projects. For example, LIFE, Horizon. There are also the projects that can be done for circular economy or biodiversity, for example. And also for public sector, it's worth mentioning that there is a framework of green budgeting. It's not a legislative thing, but it's developed in different member states, European member states, and different member states now do more and more of green budgeting. And for example, in Austria, France, and Ireland, they have the best cases, the best practices, where they develop the methodology where the budget lines are tagged. First, they are filtered out whether the budget lines are climate related or not, and then those budget lines which are climate related are assessed further whether it is positive impact on the climate or negative impact, or whether it is like neutral. And if we talk about private, so mostly with the public finance, there would be something from the budget, and there would be blended instruments. Blended instruments are something when for example, investment loan is blended with a grant. This is done also under EU funding programs. And actually, if you are interested in the EU funding programs, you can also Google it. There is a website from the European Commission, and it has it lists all of the programs according to the sectors, and there is environmental sector. Yeah, so the blended instruments, that would be for the public sector. And in the private sector, unfortunately, commercial banks are still not financing sustainable projects much, because economical attractiveness of sustainable project is still not as high as commercial banks would like to do. So therefore, support of the multilateral development banks like BRD, World Bank, EIB, IFC, it's a part of World Bank, is crucial. Also, KfW is also active there. And when we talk about these multilateral development banks, they have their own lists. They develop the MDB, they are called multilateral development banks, or MDBs. They developed MDBs common principles, which lists the eligible projects or activities which fall under category of sustainable finance. They provide different products, basically the whole banking range of products. It would be investments, term loans, it would be the revolving facilities, it would be also the trade finance facilities. Everything can be now marked as sustainable, and this is also regulated by disclosure regulations. I would like also to mention one of the products which developed really very well in the recent years, and it will be sustainability linked transactions, which means that the margin of the loan instrument is connected to the sustainability rating of the company, which is provided by the third party. There are sustainability rating companies, and also rating agencies like Moody's, S&P, they also look now at sustainability. But there are other like Sustainalytics, for example. And in case over time the company, the borrower improves the rating, then there is improvement on the margin, so decreasing of the margin, which especially in the European market, it's a lot, given that they have revolving working capital facilities for 5-10 years, and then the margins are very low. Of course, for Ukraine, the drop of the margin should be much larger to make it attractive. And these sustainability-linked transactions then also developed into KPI-linked, where the KPIs should represent all of the ESG, so the environment, social, and governance, the goals, objectives for all of these three letters. And again, it should be a third-party assessment. And the last but not least, it's capital markets and the green bonds, sustainable bonds, social bonds, sustainability-linked bonds. There are KPI bonds. Now they're talking about taxonomy-linked bonds. So this market is also of financial products is also developed and developing further and growing further.
Okay, thank you. So maybe just to sum up, so we have public-private streams. So green budgeting is the key on the public side, and then different instruments developed by the developing or multilateral banks are also in place, and blended finance is also crucial to have access to all this opportunities. So thank you, Olga. And then I'm moving to Florian. So Florian, over to you. What's from your perspective could be named as the best practice?
As Olga gave a very good overview what is on the market, I just would like to take a question from the chat from Mikola. He is asking public investment projects, and I would point out that the last point Olga said, the bonds are maybe an opportunity for public projects because the legislation in Ukraine is allowing public or communal bonds issuing. And so there might be an opportunity for you to start collecting money for whatever project you want to have.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. If Mikola, you are online, you can also react on this, if this is something which you was expecting to hear. Okay, then maybe we could come back to this. Yeah, Olga, over to you. Yeah.
I would like to add to what Florian said on this question about the EU taxonomy and do no significant harm principles. How they are incorporated in the public investment projects. First of all, in green budgeting, for example, in Austria, they now looking into incorporating taxonomy into budgeting process. So basically, the public investment projects, if they are financed with the budget funds, and if in the methodology the taxonomy is incorporated, then it is easy to link it. Secondly, the multilateral development banks, I mentioned the MDB's common principles, but they are also piloting in their banks, introducing the taxonomy categorization when they look at the projects. And probably this MDB common principles will be revised to include some taxonomy considerations. So, and why MDBs are important? Because they are used, when we talk, for example, about the EU funding programs, money are not flowing directly to private sector. You need intermediary. And the intermediary for EU funds would be the MDBs. They have their rules, they have their guidelines, they have their ESG guidelines or books, procedures, which you can also see on the website. So World Bank, they have, and they are also applying now taxonomy. So this will, the expectations are that in finance, taxonomy will be applied more in the next period.
Yeah, thank you, Olga. Maybe just a bit from my side. Maybe this will be useful for you, Mikola. The process is kind of time consuming when we're talking about incorporating these KPIs into the public processes, because it's mostly about public procurement, because you have to think about how to make sure that all these activities will be aligned with all these KPIs. So you have to start, if you're talking about, like, for example, the case, let's say the project where I'm working for now, where we're developing this procurement guidelines for the communities in Norway, for example, where we are incorporating those KPIs into the strategic documents of the community and into the procedures. So which means if a community will start working on something similar like you're working on, then those KPIs from the EU taxonomy and from do not significant harm clauses, let's say for specific activities, they will be included and they will be taken into account. So the process is time consuming, it's long, but at the end you will have a very well-established system. Okay, then I will move to the third question, I think, because it's about like how to better solve environmental and social issues using financial instruments. And maybe I will start again with you, Olga, from your experience. What do you see like the best solutions for environmental and for social aspects?
I think that the best, if we differentiate environmental and social, then the best example is to look at the bonds, at the bond market, because they have the principles, and this is the International Capital Market Association, ICMA, and these principles are internationally accepted, and basically they are the major regulation for the what is green, what is social, and what is sustainable. Sustainable is actually a combination of environment plus social. And usually sustainable bonds, they refer to sovereign bonds, because usually sovereign bonds have both environment and social aspects. For example, it can cover also construction of some hospitals, schools, and developing the institutions for education. And additionally, doing the cities more environmentally friendly with more parks and improving the air conditions, for example. So my answer, I don't know whether it's wrong.
Okay.
Right.
No,
answer would be
it's
capital
yeah,
market.
it's clear. No, it's clear. So let's maybe just to sum up, we're talking about thematic bonds, like on the market where we can dedicate money to specific environmental or specific social issues. And this is, yeah, one of the ways out. Thank you for that. And then moving back to Florian. So Florian, so in your opinion, what would be the answer?
In my experience with the Ukrainian market is that there's a huge gap in the financial structure for green solutions, and the gap is between big and multinational companies and everything which is coming below this size. So if you're running a multinational company, it's not that difficult for you to get money from the banks or wherever, given certain circumstances, of course. But if you're a startup, if you're a small company, whatever, banks are really hesitating, and it's coming back to the, what we call in German, the Kleingedruckte, the small printing in the contracts, there are the clauses which kick you out very soon. And that happens in the Ukrainian financial market very often. That's my experience. Maybe I'm wrong, because though this might be anecdotal, but I see that it is really difficult to find money for sustainable solutions. So my recommendation would be, if you're not getting easy money, maybe you have to find partners which are opening doors for you, either in the NGO side or a business partner or other kinds of partners. And there is a big need to support the financial side, because the reason I just looked up what the Deutsche Bank, so our German big bank in Germany, they have a big concept on sustainable financing. And the first thing they say in their 80 pages report on sustainable financing is, we want to earn money with it. So that's the first sentence, what they say as a bank. And of course, they have to earn money because they're the bank, which is a company which has to earn money, otherwise they are disappearing. So it's always the same that, green money is not money which is giving you because you have a good idea. You have to prove that that there's a business case behind it. Either a business case for sustainability, or you're using cross-cutting expertise to change your business from common ways to green ways. That's the way it works.
Yeah, huge thanks. No, it's exactly coming back to or connecting your last sentence with the first one, like solving environmental and social issues became like a business opportunity, or should become business opportunity. Otherwise, the bankers, they let's say they have no reasoning to work on it. So this is like one of the, let's say, if we are going to sum up this this part, we're talking about this shift in the paradigm. Let's say we closed this first part with the general questions. Maybe I will ask the audience if you have any questions at this point of time, because then we will move to the discussion questions. I prepared some questions to kickstart or kick off this process. But if the audience, if you have some questions, particular questions, like in the chat box, so feel free to raise your hand and ask a question. It's the right time. Okay, I see no hands up. So that's why let's move to this discussion or Q&A discussion part. I prepared one question to both of the experts, and this relates mostly to the situation in Ukraine, because everybody is talking about recovery, reconstruction plans, that they should be aligned with taxonomy and the stuff like this. But the question is, does it contribute to more resilience or not? And if yes, then how we can make how we can make it happen? And this is more like for reflection. And maybe I will start with you, Olga, and then we will move to Florian as well. And then the audience, feel free to raise your hand.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Alexander. Yeah, as a sustainability expert, of course, I believe that it contributes to the resilience, and that sustainability development should be included in any recovery investment and in any further development investment. How it contributes to resilience? Firstly, the new technologies, which also take into account how the environment is polluted and what will lead to the next generation, and makes it also more fair and just for next generation. So these new technologies, they are better than the old technologies. It's like from my finance experience in banking in Ukraine, I remember when we looked at some, for example, sugar factory which was built in Soviet time and which was processing the beetroot from the whole Soviet Union. And after collapse of Soviet Union, Ukraine would never be able to use all of the capacity. So it was just completely inefficient, and the factory was meant to be destroyed. So things like this. It is about efficiency, it is about future, it is about also justice.
Okay, now let's say if we are going to sum up your point, is like new, let's say available technologies will give us let's say a solution, or at least like a tool to or give us a way to make sure that sustainability will contribute to more resilience. Okay, then Florian, over to you, and what's your take on this?
Thank you very much. I would say it's a two-step approach. It's not a one-step approach, it's a two-step approach. Why? Because of course there is more resilient energy, you have a more resilient energy system if you have your own solar system on your rooftop. But this is undoubtedly very important for now. But if you're looking into a longer term, and the question, okay, if everybody has a PV system on the rooftop, so what are we going to do with our grid? And can our grid work with it? And so on. So resilience for you right now, which is important, and I don't doubt it, can become in a long run a difficult situation to decide on. And vice versa. So if you're going into new technologies today, maybe it is really hard and it's difficult and you don't really see a benefit for it. But in the long run, in the second step, after, you know, a couple of years after the war is over and so on, you might be happy that you did the step as early as you could because you are ahead of a curve or a wave or whatever for finding partners in the European Union or whatsoever. So sustainability is two-sided, or is a two-step approach in my point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I see also the point. Yeah, that's why I suggested this question, because everybody is talking about sustainability criteria to have access to the finance, but the goal, especially in case of Ukraine, to be more resilient or to become more resilient. Otherwise, nobody is, let's say, insured or protected from, let's say, from the same situation in the future. And it's the question whether you are prepared or not. So it could be like a, I don't know, like a compromise, but it shouldn't be the compromise. It should be like aligned sustainability and resilience goals, or the KPI for resilience. So that's why I think it's important to make sure that let's say, while working on this, let's say, recovery and reconstruction activities, all this, let's say, two issues will be taken into account. Okay, I will ask the audience once again, because we have only 3 minutes left, I think. And I know that, let's say, our experts, they are rushing to the next questions, but I see also the question in the chat. Okay. Yeah, it's more like a comment or an additionality to what Florian was talking about. It's like moving from past to the future. It's always about some IT solutions, especially the point that was raised by Florian. If you're moving from fossil fuels to renewable energy, at some point of time you will hit the limit, so to speak. And you have to make sure that this renewable energy unstable source will be fitting into the existing grid, because our grid is Soviet built system, and it's not, let's say, conform with what we're going to build up and into introduce to the grid. But overall, yeah, it's a good point. That's why EU is talking about twin transition, not about only green, but also digital. So you have to make sure that all those two issues, they're going hand in hand. But we are approaching the end of the webinar. Maybe I will pass the floor to you, Olga, and to you, Florian, for a very short, brief summary from your perspective. What was the most important? So Olga, over to you, and we could close.
I think the most important message to Ukrainian audience is that indeed sustainability is something like, well, I moved out only in 2016, and sustainability or pollution is not something that we are thinking daily, or sustainable daily life of each person is not something that is easy to introduce for yourself when you're living in Ukraine, especially now when it is war and the pollution is extreme because of the war. However, it's really good that we have the direction and strategy to join EU, because EU is the strongest on the global scale in respect of sustainability. So we have the chance to indeed rebuild once the victory is gained, to rebuild Ukraine in the best way to ensure that future generations have a better environment and space to live.
Yeah, huge thanks, Florian. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I don't have to add very much. I would propose, to find the business case for sustainability. That would be the strongest way into sustainability and into a green future. But the times are not that easy, and I really admire everybody who's, taking the chance and has the strength to think about it in these days. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Florian. Thank you, Olga, for your inputs for this discussion. Thank you, colleagues, for your questions in the chat, for your comments. Everything is well received and well noted. And thank you for dedicating your time to this discussion. So huge applause to all of you. And yeah, hope to see you all at our next webinar.
Thank you, Alexander, for your moderation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
And
very much
yeah, have
for
a
your
nice
attendance.
evening.
Bye-bye.
Have a nice evening.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.